Okay, so maths revision. What's the best way to do well in maths? Do lots of maths questions. Simple as that. There is no magic wand. You're just going to have to do an awful lot of maths questions. However, I'm just going to give you a few tips as to how to get the most out of your revision time. Like I said, do maths questions. Don't just read notes or make highlighting, in books, or make pretty notes with lots of diagrams and little thought bubbles and all this sort of thing. It's really ineffective. The best way, do maths questions. In the revision guides, read through it, make sure you've understood it, and then do the questions that you'll find at the bottom. Check them, make sure you get them right. That's going to be useful. But not just highlighting or making notes without doing the questions. That's the key bit with maths revision. Whilst you're doing those, don't just listen to music. I know there's this thought about if you listen to Mozart, it'll make you smarter. It's not true. It just takes up some of your mental capacity. So what you want to do is just do it in silence. Any kind of music's not going to help. Even your favorite music that actually has turned out to be the worst thing you can listen to, because you get so distracted. So don't do that. Where can you find those questions? Well, it's on MathsWatch. It's the main area to get those, because you've got worked examples, you've got videos for help, everything you need is there. And we've paid that subscription, so use that resource. There are some others, and I've got them mentioned there. If you do a question and you're struggling, make sure you know how to correct it. And you might need to seek some help from a teacher. But once you've understood where you've gone wrong and how to correct it, then give it, say, 3 days to a week and try it again, and make sure you're no longer making that mistake. The key thing here, like it says at the bottom, is to practice it so you can't get it wrong. Not until you get it right for the first time. Because in a stressful exam, you'll make a mistake. You want to be in a situation in which you're so confident with it, it's impossible for you to make an error. Key thing then, just those key basic number skills. You need to know them. So that's things like calculating with decimals, calculating with fractions. With and without a calculator, you need to know how to do that, especially without. So I've got some videos you'll notice in the top right there. Watch those videos, do the questions that are part of the videos, make sure you get them right every single time. If you get people saying that they find something easy, it's only easy if you get it right 100% of the time. That's when it's easy, not when you feel like it's easy. So make sure you know these. So I've got a couple of really important ones on the screen there. Mainly they come up in non-calculator exams, and the examiner loves using these. So things like dividing by a quarter looks really complicated. If you don't know, that's the same as timesing by 4, which actually is really easy. So you need to know these. Dividing by a half, same as timesing by 2. Dividing by a third, same as timesing by 3. Dividing by a fifth, same as timesing by 5, and so on. Also, just calculation with decimals. People are normally okay with multiplying with decimals. What about dividing it with a decimal? It's actually going to make your answer bigger. It's the only thing that actually makes sense, because if you can get 100 £1 coins out of £100, well, how many 10 pences can you get? Well, it's going to be more, isn't it? So you need to know this, and you need to be confident with it. So make sure you can do all the questions that I've from those videos that I've put up there in the top right there. Another major issue that you see in exams is people make mistakes with time calculations. The most common one you can see there in front of you. 2 hours, 30 minutes, 2.3 hours. Well, hang on, it's 2.5 hours. You know this. So it's impossible to be 2.3. The reason why people make mistakes, of course, is there's 60 minutes in an hour, not 100. And so that's why the numbers don't match. So 1 hour, 15 minutes, look, 1.25 hours. Well, because it's 1.25 hours. You need to make sure you know how to do time calculations. I've got a couple of videos up there. It might be part of a bus timetable question maybe, and you need to know about AMs and PMs and 24 hours. Make sure you can write it in the 24-hour clock. Are you sure you know how to do that? Often time calculation questions come up with speed distance time questions. So make sure you know how to calculate with time, and then that will normally mean that you won't make any mistakes in those often many marked speed distance time questions. Transformations is another big one. If you look there in the top left, you can see a common error. Reflect shape A in the line x equals 1. So the error they've made is they've reflected it correctly, but in the line y equals 1. And this is a really common error because people don't know what, they make mistakes at least with what equations of lines are. So you don't want to make those mistakes. So you can watch that clip 96 and do the questions of it. Make sure you understand straight line graphs. I've got some famous ones there. Y equals horizontal, x equals a vertical, and you need to know those two diagonals as well. Another common issue with transformations is that people don't use the keywords. So we'll say describe this transformation. People say it's flipped. Well, that's not a maths term, so you get 0. You want to use the keyword, so reflect. So it's either always going to be reflection, rotation, translation, and possibly even enlargement. You need to use those keywords. So you need to know what they are and also the key information that goes with them. So if it's a rotation, you're going to need to say keyword rotation. Then you're going to need to say the degrees, clockwise or anti-clockwise, and the point of rotation. You need to know that every question to do rotation needs those 3 pieces of information. If you miss one out, you just lose a mark each time. So make sure you know how to do those. One of the most frustrating things, I think, for all maths teachers is the question, is 1 kilometre 100 meters or 1,000 meters? You need to go into the exam fully confident that you know all of those basic conversions that are listed there. No mistakes. If you're unsure, watch that clip 112 and do the questions. One area that people make a lot of mistakes on, that people are less familiar with maybe, is that you can see that 1 centimetre is 10 millimetres, and hopefully you should know that. But 1 centimetre squared is 100 millimetres squared. Now the reason for that is because the conversion between centimetres and millimetres is 10, but between centimetres squared and millimetres squared, conversion is 10 squared, which is 100. And that's why these units are as they are. If you're unsure of any of that, again, watch that clip 200 and do the questions. And remember, units are always worth marks. So if the question says something that you're unsure about, but it says leave your answer in kilograms, and you can see earlier in the question it says something about grams, change those grams into kilograms, and guarantee yourself a mark. Also, writing in your units every single time just stops you making silly mistakes. So you've got a multi-step question, lots and lots of things that you're calculating. You put your units on there, then you can remember what it is that you calculated. If you don't do that, then you'll start getting confused and you'll just maybe multiply the wrong thing and end up losing really quite a few marks. Whereas if you just put the units in, you'll be fine. Another one to mention in there is money. So anytime you have any money, round it to 2 decimal places and have the pound symbol only, because this is the correct way to write money. So if it's £1.50, you put pound sign 1.50. Do not put 1. If you do that, you just lose a mark, and it's a terrible waste of marks. So I just have to plug my computer in. It's so easy. So let's get those marks, right, rather than lose them, because you'll just have to make it up again later. Okay, so teachers have been probably talking about this for years, about getting a calculator. It's so important. The main reason is the situation with COVID is going to be, but probably it's going to be that we can't lend any out at all. So if you go into your calculator exam without a calculator, you won't have one. There won't be any way to get one, and that means really that you're going to just not do well in that exam at all. Be lucky to to get a bare pass at all. So make sure you have your calculator, you know exactly how it works, you know what the buttons mean. It's in degrees mode, and you know what that means, because if you have any questions on trigonometry, if you don't have it in degrees mode, it'll give you strange answers, and you don't want that. If you're unsure about how to use your calculator, and we recommend this Casio one because it looks exactly as you'd write it, then you can see this link that I've got on this PowerPoint. If you're unsure though how your actual calculator works, I mean, you can go through the manual or so on, but really you just need to practice it. You need to make sure you understand how it works. So, for example, have a go at these. What you want to do is type these questions in and make sure you can get the answers that I've listed there. What I recommend doing is pausing it and making sure you can do every single one. And I'll carry on with the last tip in just a moment. Okay, so hopefully you've paused that and actually had a go at those questions and make sure you can do every single one. Sometimes, you know, questions like 7, 8, and 9 or even 10, 11 just appear like that in an exam question just as they are. They're often worth 2 to 3 marks. They're really easy. It's just typing stuff in and pressing equals. But if you don't do it correctly, you'll just get nothing. So make sure you know how to do these. Okay, and then the last tip. The best way to get the marks that you want is going to be not so much getting marks from the hard questions. It's going to be not losing them on the easy ones. Because if you lose marks on the easy questions, you're just going to have to make them up later. So what does that mean? Well, for the foundation paper, that's kind of questions 1 to 15. No errors whatsoever. 100% right. Questions 1 to 15. For the higher, probably 1 to 10. No errors. If you do that, then you only need to pick up a few more marks and you've got your 4s, your 5s, and then for the higher 6s and 7s. If you don't do that, you just make a silly, careless mistake. You know, you made the wrong conversion of units or whatever that was on question 3, then it just means you're going to have to now do it on that really complicated multi-step grade 5 question. So make life easy for yourself. Practice those easy things. Make sure you don't ever make those mistakes. And then you'll find that you'll get the grades that you want. The last thing to say is just sometimes you get people that are unsure how to get the final answer and then they just give up and leave the question blank. Well, if you do that, you've guaranteed yourself 0 for that question. What you want to do is, if you're unsure how to get the final answer, start thinking, well, what things can I do? Could I make one calculation and pick up 1 mark? 1 mark out of 5 is better than 0. How could you maybe do that? Well, a common one is the units, like I've said before. But I think one really great tip is what a examiner said to me, which was, if it says, it's a really complicated question, it's not really making any sense to you, but then right at the end it says round your answer to 3 significant figures. You think, well, I know how to round to 3 significant figures. Then make up a number and round that correctly to 3 significant figures, and you'll get 1 mark. It's a great tip. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Like I said, the main thing is doing questions, making sure you can get them right. If you make a mistake, finding out how you made that mistake, and then repeat it a few days later and check that you've overcome that error. And if you do that, you'll breeze through your exams. Okay, good luck.